Going to go live here and see how things work out. I don't have the overhead working, but it never seems to want to do that. But hello, everyone. Hello, Augies Worldwide, and very glad to have you here at our Thursday evening live stream. It's Thursday evening at 6:45 p.m. Here in Colorado, USA. And it's a hot day. It was well over 90 when I finished flying this morning. And by the time I got home here, it was 85 or something like that. It's 83 right now. And 26% humidity, which isn't too much. And we had quite a rainstorm yesterday. It rained and rained. Which for us is unusual. I mean, it's not huge amounts of rain, but it was 4/10 of an inch of rain, which is quite a bit for a single storm for us. And we get almost all our water through thunderstorms. Snow in the winter, but thunderstorms in the summer. And we had so much yesterday, I thought there might be an issue with the river flooding a little bit, but things seem to be okay. Let's see. Bob Darlington has checked. Hi, Dave, and all Augies from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where it is 75 degrees and rain. Ed K6 STW, 90 in Sacramento. And I know that Sacramento can get hot. Claudio Bio says, hi, Dave and Augies, greetings from Peru. And Robert Watson, WA7SON in Tennessee. David Mayer, good evening from KB2G in Maryland. John Mills, greetings from Echo Alpha 8/Golf 4 Sierra Tango Alpha in the Canary Islands. 17C here at 1:45 in the morning. 17C sounds a little bit high. What is 17C in F? 62.6. That's a nice, pleasant evening. I imagine it could get quite warm and humid there. Chuck Schreiber says, good evening, Dave, and all Augies. N5 KVO from sunny, hot Texas. Currently 93, and this weekend we are looking at 105 with the heat index around 110. I think that is a very good excuse to stay indoors and stay cool if you can. One of the problems with the extreme high temperatures is everybody's running their air conditioning at the same time, and it can exceed the utilities capacity. Here's how they tell whether their capacity is being exceeded. It's not by voltage, although that plays a little part of it. They can just tweak things and make the voltage what they want. It's the frequency. The whole country is divided into essentially 3 power grids. There's the East, the West, and Texas. And one of the problems with Texas being its own power grid is that if it's overloaded, it doesn't have anybody else it can call on for power. But what they are looking at is the frequency. The whole power grid, whether East, West, or Texas, has to be running at 60 hertz. And if the generators are overloaded and that frequency starts to slip to 59.98 hertz, it's time to shed load. And the idea being that you shed load in some orderly fashion, supposedly. They had a problem down during the freeze down there that the frequency did go below 60 hertz. They started to shed load, and they had, unfortunately, they've got very distributed power sources. Wind, solar, everything, and this is more of a problem now than it used to be when there was a central power source. If you had a central power source, you could shed load, fine. You know, you do rolling blackouts or something like that, or you do a brownout where you turn the voltage down. But you've got to get the generator up to 60 hertz. Otherwise, it will not synchronize with other generators on the grid will start fighting itself and collapse. So down in Texas, they had so much load on it that the process of shedding load in an environment of distributed generation got away from them. So, and that's something they've got to think through very carefully, because one of the things we saw as we went to Dayton and back was the sheer number of wind farms and the sheer number of solar farms. It's just unbelievable. Solar farms are gradually starting to edge out wind farms. But then you run into the storage problem. You can get wind night and day, but you only get solar in the daytime, sort of by definition. If it's night, it's not solar. So anyway, that's what happens, and that's why if there's enough load that it starts to bog down the generator, or in this case, bog down the power grid, load has to be shed, so that won't happen. You've got to keep the 60 hertz. If they do it properly, it's something they can recover from. But if breakers start tripping everywhere, they can lose the whole grid. And trying to get the grid restarted in a time of no power, or less power than they need, can be very difficult. Let's see. Maryland, Canary Islands, sunny hot Texas. Anthony Becerra says hello. Valentin Lucero says hello from KE5KFP. David Samsel says checking in from northeastern Pennsylvania. I was very close to you, and after Dayton, we went up to Kirtland, Ohio, and then to Talmadge, Ohio, to see DX Engineering. Temps 71 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a very nice, reasonable temperature. Hello, Dave and fellow Augies from AC3HT. Pedro Morias says greetings from Oxnard, California, 72 Fahrenheit. I have been to Oxnard. I used to live in Simi Valley. He is K6MIL. And N Bulls 28 says hello. Glenn Martin, hello from far west Missouri area, 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 42% relative humidity. That's a little on the warm side. And 0 QFT. Leon Ritchie, KE7CHX in Scottsdale, Arizona, where it is currently 100. That's warm. Last August, not last August, the August prior, August 2020, when I went down to Arizona to pick up the airplane, I was in Buckeye, Arizona, and which is part of the very western edge of the Phoenix metro area. And so not terribly far from Scottsdale. And it was 105 to 110. And we were out flying in that weather. And it's just warm. It's just plain warm. We would roll the airplane out of the hangar as the sun came up. It would be about 95 degrees at that point. We'd fly for an hour, take a break, fly for another hour, and then take a much longer break so I could go have breakfast. I wasn't going to get up at 4 in the morning and have breakfast. So then some ground school in the afternoon, and then back to the hotel for a nap, and then do my reading. Let's see. Northeastern Pennsylvania, Glenn Martin, Far West, Leon Ritchie, Scottsdale. Question for you or the group: would you recommend a multiband vertical antenna for a shack at 6,300 feet elevation? Of course, the actual altitude of your shack has no particular effect on your radiation pattern. Figure that the ionosphere is about 75 miles high. So if you're a mile above sea level, you're not a significant portion of that in the air. Now, if you live on top of a mountain, That's 6,300 feet, and it's down all around. And yeah, that's pretty cool. But I live at 7,000 feet. And so the question comes down to a multiband vertical or a multiband dipole, a multiband whatever. The multiband verticals are very common. You can pay anything you want for a vertical. The least expensive vertical is probably going to be the DX Commander, which is a quasi-portable cable or antenna. I would not think that I'd rush to pull that down and put it up somewhere else, but they work. I mean, it's vertical. It's a fan vertical. It works. All verticals work. I would recommend, if you don't mind putting things together, a multiband vertical like the AV 680 or 640. I'd recommend the 640. It covers so little of 80 meters, it's not worth the extra $100. But now you're still paying $500, $600 for an antenna. You pay about 2/3 of that for the DX Commander. You can make your own vertical if you've got some trees around. Just snake a wire up between some trees and you've got a vertical. Another thing to do, if you do have some trees, put up a long wire and run it with a outdoor tuner. The other possibility is like a My Antennas vertical. The ARRL has a kit for an end-fed dipole for under $100. You do have to do a little drilling. So I think the best thing to do is find a good buddy that you've got who's got the right expertise to do the drilling, including one fairly large size hole that's larger than a 1/2 inch. And most drill bit boxes don't include anything beyond a 1/2 inch, if they even have that. But you've got a little bit of drilling to do. You could drill something smaller and ream it out with a file, something that's fairly soft plastic that the box is made of. But that will give you an antenna that will do 40, 30, 20, 17, 15, 12, 10, maybe 6 meters. So that's something that you could work on for there. I think that would work fairly well and be much less expensive than a vertical. Now, if you don't care about the money, go for one of the more modern verticals, like the AV 640 or something like that. Now, I warn you, there's nearly 200 pieces in that kit. It's going to take you a day to 2 days of constant solid work all day to assemble the antenna. And then you have to tune it. You have to tune it for each band. The HF9V that I had was a stinker to tune on 30. And on 17, it doesn't ever go below 2-to-1 SWR anyway, but I don't do much work on 17. So, lots of options that you have available there. The nice thing about the shiny antenna is it's something that will work. Some antennas require radials, some of the verticals do not. Now, I will point out that if it's a vertical that does not require radials, it wants to be about 10 feet off the ground, the base of it. So that'd be a good roof mount antenna, or you can put up a pole next to your house, fasten it to the roof, fasten it on the ground. If it's a nice piece of steel pipe or something, it can hold that thing up very nicely up there. And you can always get 2 pieces of steel pipe, like 2-inch or 1.5-inch pipe, and get the coupling and screw them in. It'd take a lot of wind to bend that thing, and that would give you a very nice antenna. The vertical is a little bit better for DX, for longer distances than the dipole. Okay, so Valentine, there are my thoughts and suggestions on the vertical, and I've done quite a few videos on antennas recently. And synced across the networks. Okay, that looks like the second half of something in 0VTY. Mike Oswald, hello Dave and all from Kirkland, Washington. AA7MO, 76 degrees and scattered clouds. Summer may be here, maybe. Yeah, I hear from... The only time I hear about your weather is when it's raining really hard. So I assume that must mean when we don't hear about your weather, you've got some reasonable, bright, sunny days to go out and enjoy that beautiful country up there in the Seattle area. Spokane is way west of there. It's got its own beauty too, but it's a bit more deserty. Let's see, Russell K4QPR says, hi Dave. This week in Amateur Radio Podcast Talk was talking about Dayton Hamfest. Put in a good word about you. Well, thank you. Tell them thank you. Taylor Bauman, hi from Rochester, Minnesota, WB0RSJ. Don Zed, good evening, Dave, and all from steamy Minnesota. KC0DWZ. Minnesota does like its weather extremes. It can get very hot and steamy in the summer and very cold in the winter. So that get quite a bit. Chris, Golf 7 Victor Echo Oscar, is expecting 80 degrees by later today in the UK. That's warm for the UK. It is plenty warm. I remember when I was there for the Farnborough Air Show, I went for a walk in a park, and you'd see these little sort of ill-defined clouds drift over, and as they drifted over, they'd drop rain on you, and then they'd drift on out of the way, and it would be sunny, and a new one would drift over you. It was a very interesting experience. And let's see, NBowls28 says, hey Dave, should you disconnect RF ground during a storm? I have a friend that took a hit and some of the energy came and hit his equipment. He saved some of it. What is your opinion? Generally, I would leave the ground connected. However, all bets are off in the event of a direct strike. I had a direct strike at my station in Louisville, Colorado, many years ago. Took a direct strike. Somebody across the street saw it hit my antenna, vaporized my antenna. All that was left was the coax, and even that was blown out. It had to be thrown away. So, yes, we had stuff coming in through the ground and everything. If you're worried about your equipment, now I don't normally disconnect my equipment in lightning storms. I turn the coax switches to the ground position where they short the coaxes, and there's also a little lightning arrestor in the switches. These are alpha delta switches, and I've got them down by where they come in. All of the antennas are grounded down there before they come in. Now, will that withstand a direct strike? No. If you're curious, if you're concerned about this, one, get insurance. The ARRL offers insurance that will cover lightning strikes. Second, take your radio and disconnect it from everything, including the ground, and set it over across on the other side. I had a Yaesu 747 at the time that I still have, and that Yaesu was completely disconnected from everything, and it suffered no damage. However, my power supply, it blew out. This was an old analog power supply, RS35A or something. It had a chip in it that blew out, which I replaced for about $1. And the antenna tuner arced over, and to this day that tuner's got a little rough spot right there. I did break loose the arc weld. It also blew out the modem in my computer, so it came in through the phone line. And it also damaged the board, the circuit board in the garage door opener, so that it was always trying to open the door. I had to unplug it. We ended up having to replace the whole unit. And then connect it, and then disconnect it when you are not using it. Now in the winter, you can disconnect it if a storm comes by, but that's not usual in the winter in Tampa. But Tampa is like close to being the lightning capital of the world in the summer. And so if you're there, I would disconnect your main radio, make sure everything else is really well grounded. And when I say disconnect, I mean disconnect. Take it out of the station, set it on the other side of the room, and then reconnect it when you want to get on the air. If there's lightning in the area, you know, if there's a nearby strike, the lightning surge arresters will help protect that. So I hope that answers your question. Lightning is not something to mess with. Scott Brown says hello from N2OG. Ray Aguiar says hello all from KE0OG. Aguiar. Okay, I got it right. Terry, 2 Echo 0, India Papa Kilo, greetings from London. Hope all is well. James Reese says hello from KJ4BKR. Duncan Maceiver. Hi from New River, Arizona. It's a new name. Welcome. 105 degrees Fahrenheit, New River, Arizona. Boy, that river must be boiling. KK7 Golf Foxtrot Papa, Duncan. And JP Tucson, Arizona. John N7GHZ Catalina, which is near Tucson, Arizona. 103.8 degrees at this time. A nice toasty time. Oh, yes. Anan Holmula has retracted his message a couple times. There it is. 73 from Germany at DG2 Romeo. At the moment, 17 degrees centigrade, which we figured out a little while ago. It was in like 65 or something Fahrenheit. Very nice. I am in camping holiday. Is it raining? It is raining the whole day. Please, sorry for my poor English. Don't worry about it. Came through just fine. Okay, let's see. We got down to Greg Culbreth, N7OVR. 75 inches of rain in the last 3 days. Wow. Have yet to see 90 degrees in Monticello. N7, that would be Utah. Monticello is Utah. I think it's pronounced Monticello rather than Monticello. Okay, Jed Petrovich, thanks for explaining the power grid. Yeah, 95 in Salt Lake City, Utah. Jed Petrovich, AD7KG, hello. Harry Rundle, welcome back. Good to see you here tonight. Good evening, Dave and fellow Augies. Nice 76 degrees here in Overlea, Maryland. I want to say Overleaf when I see that. I think there is a place somewhere called Overleaf, but Overlea, Maryland, AC3EK. Duncan Maceiver ordered a DX Commander antenna yesterday. Yeah, I have their classic. I took a lot of heat for the first 2 videos that I did on it. Because they didn't like what I was doing. I was letting a teenager put it together to see if he could get it together. He couldn't, using the 1.16 instructions. So the second video was a different teenager who put it together with the 1.18 instructions, and we did get it up. Although it collapsed the first time we put it up because he had failed to follow certain instructions. So we did get it up, tested it, it works fine. I'm going to do one more video on it where I am going to put, we're going to do an audit of the construction on the antenna, and we're going to actually take it to the point where I tune it so that it's actually tuned on every band. You don't need a tuner. And I'm going to put it up more or less permanently over by the driveway there. I've got a space over there, and we already cut a piece of coax for it, so it should work really well. And then I can use that for comparisons. I've got 2 verticals, and then I've got the standard, the reference station antenna up. Actually, it's on the ground right now because we're testing that Australian cobweb, which works really well. So I'm starting to collect antennas I don't really want to let go of. So anyway, good evening. 95 degrees in Salt Lake City. I have 2 sisters there and a million, at least, nieces and nephews, grandnieces, grandnephews in the Salt Lake area. And Jet is AD7KG. Okay, N0VTY, infed half wave, has an inverted V, low cost, easy up and down. That's what I did with the My antennas. Now we gave the My antennas away as a drawing, one of the things, just like we're going to tonight do the drawing for this MFJ surge suppressor / RF protector thing on the power supply inputs. And I've got, I put out a video about it, and I've got lots of entries, and we'll do that drawing in a little bit. Okay, William Peachman says, W8LV Bill, should portable radios be insulated, and should the distal ends be insulated for safety? I would say yes and yes. If you're not going to have anybody around, I don't have my ends insulated. There are no children around here. And the deer and whatnot know well enough to stay away from them. But if you, I prefer insulated radials. If you put bare radials out there, they start to act a little bit like ground rods, and they don't really give you the counterpoise effect that you want to have from the radials. That's why I prefer radials. They should not be buried more than an inch or 2. I would lay them on the surface if you can. If you put them down with lawn staples are sort of 3 sides of a box. You push them down into the ground. In a couple years, you'll find that radial won't even show up, and you can just mow over it. Another thing to do is get like a pizza slicer. Just get out there, slice, open, put the ground in, push close, slice a little more. It takes a long time, but you can get your radials just slightly buried. Okay, should portable radios, okay. Jeff C, can a fan dipole be inverted? Absolutely. Absolutely. Typically the build is 80 on top. Next down is, 49 meters would be for shortwave. Next down would be 40, or you could do 60 for that matter. 80, 40, 20, 15, 10, 6, yes, and so on. But can you invert this and go? Normally you put the longer ones on top because that's the wire that bears the weight of the antenna. However, if you want to pull different bands out at different angles, you can do that too. A lot of people have done that. Sinister Pisces says, good evening, glad to catch you again live. Jeff C, Jeff KJ7VWR says, best wishes. Dave L says, hi Dave, I'm going to pass my tech, general, and extra exams this Saturday. Thanks for all your great videos. I've learned a lot from you. Dave, well, good luck on your exams. If I were to make a suggestion to you, is something to keep in mind. I've seen a lot of people who've gone from 0 to extra in one day get very frustrated with AM radio. They try and get too fancy a station. They have trouble operating it. They don't understand the bands and so on. if I could make a recommendation, and I've made this recommendation a number of times, and that is this: take your tech in general, okay, and then get your station set up and learn. And then in 2 years, after you really understand the bands and how they work on HF, and you've got lots of friends on VHF, and you've got yourself a little hotspot or something like that, after 2 years, your extra will mean so much more to you. So much more. But a thought. So, anyway, good luck with your exams. Do well. Paul Griffith says thunderstorm season in Louisiana and the rest of the Gulf Coast. I think Florida's #1 in lightning strikes. Having lived in Tampa, I can verify that personally. A lot of lightning out there. When I was in the Air Force, I was the maintenance officer for the maintenance part of the 660th Radar Squadron, and we maintained height finder radar. The FAA maintained the search radar. We had a little operations section. We were co-located with a missile warning radar, and we also had ground-air radios that were used by NORAD for air defense. And we had a power plant there too, four big diesel engines. You had to run 2 at a time to keep the site up. And whenever there was thunderstorm activity in the area, the base tower, there was a standard Air Force base with a runway and everything, the tower would send us by teleautograph. Now, that's an interesting device. Teleautograph would send us a thunderstorm warning, and we'd bring up the power plant, the local power plant, and run the site on that during the storm, so that if lightning took down the base power grid, it would not affect our operations. We'd keep our operationally ready rate high. And it worked quite well most of the time. So, Michael Mestro, KD8QDL, sends along $25 for the chat revenue and says, Dave, thank you for all you do for ham radio operators everywhere. Your answers to questions as informative and well delivered. Thank you. You are a great example of what Elmering is all about. Elmering, of course, and for those who are new in ham radio, is mentoring people, is all about. Best regards to you. Well, thank you very much, Michael. I appreciate that. Jason Wester also put $10 into the chat revenue. Says, I've been into ham radio for 6 days. Your technician video series has been wonderful. Thank you. Well, you're certainly welcome. The tech videos can be found by going to KE0OG.net/training. And that has the list of all the videos. The links are actually to where the videos reside, which is on the ARRL YouTube pages. Okay, that's for tech. When you move up to general, you need to join the league. You need to join the league anyway. And then you can go ahead and go to KE0OG.general or KE0OG.net/general or /extra. And then those links put you inside the ARRL website and take you directly to the training videos, which are, if you will, the way Dave Minster explained it in his column, the ARRL has leased my training videos and put them up on their website as their training videos, which I think is really cool. So happy to do that and happy to continue to do the Ask Dave. And of course, I do the Ask Dave column for QST. The August issue has been to the printer, but hasn't been released yet. I did a video that expands on one of the questions that's in there, and I don't know if that video's up yet, but I have sent it to the league. So when I was at Dayton, I wore this shirt with the OG on it, but I was also at the ARRL booth for an hour on Friday and an hour on Saturday as a meet and greet. And what was wonderful about Dayton was I got to meet hundreds of Uggies. There were 31,000 people there, so I can see that my market can still grow, still reach more people, because I don't have 31,000 people looking at every video that I do, more like 3,000-4,000. Although I do have one viral video that went out. It was about a beginner's guide to shortwave listening. And I did this for a friend at church. She wanted to listen to shortwave and says, how do I do that? Well, I'll make a video about that. So I made the video with one person in mind. It has about 650,000 views right now. It's the most viewed of my videos. And I can never quite figure out what makes a video viral and what makes it ordinary. You know, I try to put effort into both, but oh well, there you go. Seattle has seen an uptick in lightning strikes in the past few years. In September 2019, we had a single day that saw over 2,000 strikes, 1,200 plus, which occurred inside a 3-hour window. I think I would have gone down to the basement and pulled a pillow over my head. And that's from, and he says, best wishes from W7EDZ. TIG 547, hello Dave, love your vids, from KD2APB. Claudio Bio says, about folded counterpoise in a balcony. I am assembling a multiple folded counterpoise. Oh, something like a vertical grill for my 1.8 meter vertical bottom loaded antenna. 10 centimeters between lines is okay. If it's for HF, yeah. 10 centimeters is about, what, 2 inches? That's fine for HF. If you're building like just sort of a ground plane for it, counterpoise, properly called a counterpoise, I think. Yes, you can do that. You don't need to weave it unless you want to. Just radial out from the antenna will do too. And the radials don't all need to be the same length or anything like that. More is better, but there is a point of diminishing returns that you can reach fairly quickly. Like the difference between 30 radials, like I've got out here, and 300 radials, which is considered complete coverage, is minuscule. So yeah, that would work. A multiple folded counterpoise, something like a vertical grill. For my 1 point, I'd make the grill horizontal, perpendicular to the vertical antenna. Charlie Sotaro, Charlie from Danbury, Connecticut. You demand, we are the same age, 70, and I'm going to be 71, by the way, in a couple of weeks. That's going to be a little hard. I mean, it was kind of a novelty becoming 70, but when you're 71, you can't deny being in your 70s anymore. I mean, it could be argued that 70 is the end of the 7th decade, which started when I was 60, ended at 70, but I'm beyond that now. And my flight instructor, by the way, is 78. So, and my Lou flight instructor, he is a very nice guy, gentle, good-humored, but he's kind of strict. I mean, he wants it he's taken me in his hand, and he's going to get me through my check ride. And he tells me, as I did something today where we were going in a certain direction, going over the practice area, and he had told me to keep it at a certain altitude, and I missed that part. And so I gradually increased the altitude. He says, "You just busted your check ride." I go, "What?" He said, "You went up too high." Okay, if you say so. So I think he said it. I tried to record the audio today along with the GoPro video, but I screwed it up. So I'm going to try again on Monday when I next fly. Okay. Charlie from Danbury, Connecticut, is going for his general. Well, good luck, and check out my videos, and I hope they help, and good luck becoming a general. Fred Bisnet says, "Hey Dave, do you think 16 quarter wave radials are good enough for 20-meter monoband vertical?" Yes. The distance, that really doesn't matter how long they are, 10 to 30 feet something. A lot of people think quarter wave, but it just doesn't seem to be that important. I'd recommend insulated. It says, "I'm getting great reports and it's resonant and I don't need a tuner. I've trimmed it well." Yes, you should easily be able to cover the whole band with a full-size 20-meter vertical. From Victor Echo 1 QFA, that'd be Canada. So Fred, yeah, congratulations on your homemade vertical there. It would work really well the way you stated there. John Sullivan. "Dave, I stopped active amateur activity 30 years ago, which would be 1990, and put my equipment in the attic. I took it down recently and nothing worked." No, it wouldn't. "Was it baked to death or could someone use it?" It needs some tender, loving care. There are components in those radios, especially if there are tubes in the radios, that their value evolves with time to the point where they don't work properly. So I would recommend that you get somebody who's into restoring equipment. Now, there's a magazine. Now, this magazine is designed for people in the tube era. It's called Electric Radio, and the web address is, see if I can find it here where I can show it. It's ermag.com. ermag. Okay, and it doesn't say that anywhere on here. Subscriptions, there it is. www.ermag.com. Okay, and it's only published 6 times a year now, because the guy who's doing it is getting pretty old. But this magazine is for people who like to restore radios. Now, mostly this is aimed at tube radios. The transistor radios that were put out in the 70s, 80s, 90s should still function. But you might want to get with someone and go through them very carefully. Take each item of equipment one at a time and check it out on the scope, see if the signal's being generated, what kind of power is being put out, and so on. You've probably already plugged it all in. That sometimes can create issues. But have somebody go over it. Now, note that you won't hear anything on the radio unless you've got an antenna put up. The ham radios are designed for outdoor antennas, meaning fairly strong signals. And so if you turn them on with just a coat hanger for an antenna, you're not going to get much. You've got to get a wire outside. So get yourself a wire that's maybe 50 feet long, connect it to the antenna input, throw it outside, string it between a couple trees, and that should bring you enough input that you can tell if the receiver works. Okay. And yes, somebody can use it. Your local club can help you. Now, if you've been out of amateur radio for a long time, you're probably out of contact with your local club. You can go to the ARRL Find a Club or something like that, Club Finder, and you search the league website for Club Finder, and you can find a club that's near you. You may need to go club shopping till you find one that you're simpatico with. And some of the old timers there can walk you through these things and help you out with that sort of stuff. And Jeff Harris at KB8NOU, Jeff in Elkins, West Virginia, is checking in. TLC Golden says, hey Dave, any news on the upcoming new model HF FT710 by Yaesu? Well, that is the first I have heard that there is a new model. So I don't know anything about it. They just came out with the FTDX, I think it's the 10. What is it? I've lost track of the Yaesu line. So I guess they are going to want to run their new technology through additional models. I'm not familiar with that one. Yaesu has a series of radios that are usually FT and 3 digits that are small radios. They can put out 100 watts, but they're small. They're the size of a mobile radio, and they're kind of specifically designed for POTA, SOTA, QRP operating, mobile operating, things like that. Of course, 100 watts isn't QRP, but they do make QRP radios in that same series. Scott W9AVA says, I'm a ham, always learning. Thanks to you. I use a multimeter and antenna analyzer all the time. What purpose would a nano VNA and a signal analyzer do for me? Well, the nano VNA can be used as an antenna analyzer. That's not its primary function. Its primary function is to analyze networks of components. It's VNA stands for vector, meaning phase as well as amplitude. Those are the two dimensions. Vector, phase, amplitude, or amplitude phase. And signal analyzer do for me? The answer is, unless you're really into that sort of thing, probably not much. Now, a signal analyzer, to me, I go, is that an O-scope? Is that a spectrum analyzer? I have both, and I have videos on both. Over here, I've got a signal generator, an oscilloscope, which looks at signals in the time domain, you know, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle kind of thing, and a spectrum analyzer, which puts things on the frequency scale. And that's very useful for looking at harmonics and stuff like that. Now, I thought what I was going to do with those when I got them is do more videos on basic electronics. At one point, I did breadboard and oscillator and showed how it worked and all that. And although Mr. Carlson makes very good videos on that and gets lots of good reviews, my videos got very few views. People didn't seem to be interested in that. Hams are interested in antennas, power supplies, grounding, and the latest bells and whistles and how to use their HF equipment and how to connect to DMR and D-Star and how to do a lot of the other things you can do on VHF. And of course, FT8. FT8 is just big, really big. And I've noticed recently that a lot of the HF activity is SOTA. I mean, POTA, parks on the air. And so you can pick up quite a few contacts from those parks on the air all the time. And that has become very, very popular. So what will they do for you? Well, the Nano VNA costs less than $100. So you can play with that. I hope you like Linux, because the people who put that thing together, it's a Linux operating system, and Linux people think different. Okay? They think different. And if you're a Linux person, that Nano VNA will be so easy to use. If you're not, it can be very confusing. But there are many, many videos on YouTube about using the Nano VNA. And the reason that I have not pushed it more is because they keep changing the menu on the Nano VNA, and it is not a top-level item in the menu to use it as an SWR antenna analyzer. Not top level. So you have to do some navigating to get to it, and every issue of the Nano VNA tweaks the menu slightly. It's a Linux thing. And so although I've got one, and although I got some very good instruction in how to use it, I have not put it up because, to me, I think it would be totally blow away somebody who's new to the hobby. Would, just crump over that thing, get very frustrated, and so on, like I did. So I use an antenna analyzer when I want to analyze antennas or feed lines or anything like that. So now the Nano VNA will do that, but it will also do many, many other things. And for the bulk of the people using it, they are using it to do those other things. So now, as far as the signal analyzer, that's kind of a general term. You've got a lot of things in that area, from reading the frequency to looking at the waveform to checking for harmonics to look at overmodulation and compression and so on and so forth. And I don't know what signal analyzer you have in mind, but it is something to look at. I'm not going to say no. I'm going to say, yeah, go ahead. But just beware, unless you are a Linux person. If you're a Linux person, the Nano VNA is the neatest thing since sliced bread. Okay? For a very, very low price, for a very powerful analytical instrument that will connect to your computer and give you beautiful graphs, all kinds of things. Okay? So, it's just, I don't know. I haven't found a simple, easy way. If somebody comes out with a Nano VNA/ham, something that's designed that when you turn it on, it's an antenna analyzer, then yeah, fine. I'll be right on it. But the way it is set up now, it does so many things so well. It replaces test equipment that used to cost tens of thousands of dollars with a little thing that's less than $100. So anyway, Stephen says, good evening, everyone, from WW5E. Scott, I don't know if I answered your question very well, but those are my thoughts. The multimeter and antenna analyzer. The multimeter is essential. Every ham has to have one. The antenna analyzer, I got away without using one for 10 or 15 years, and then bought one, and then wondered how I ever lived without it. It's just a very practical thing to have. So, Stephen says, good evening. Chris Heimel says, do counterpoise wire directions help with reception in the direction the wires are running? Yes, they do. Just like transmitting. Like, for example, if your antenna is up against your house, and so your radial array is just 180 degrees out here in front of you, it will tend to push your signal in the direction of the radials. Tend to. Not put a null behind it or anything. No. It's just you'll get somewhat better transmitting of your signal and better reception in the direction where the radials go. So this means you can put up an antenna anywhere, and if for some reason you can't run radials in a particular direction, that's life. We don't run radials in that direction. And the antenna will still give you good performance and will allow you to do lots of things. Now, there are some manufacturers like Buddy Pole that think that you can put up a vertical with one radial as a, quote, counterpoise. Does it work? Yeah. Would it be better with more radials? Oh, definitely. The FT710 is all over YouTube now. Oh, good. Well, why don't we look it up? Okay, I'm going to go over to the screen, and we're going to go to Yaesu FT710 and see what we got. HF plus 6 meter radio, Yaesu 710. Okay, I'm absolutely wrong about the size of the thing. It's a full-size radio. Okay, compact, 100 watts. It says using the advanced digital RF technology. Note they do not say software-defined radio because it technically isn't. It's an extremely high quality, super heterodyne. Okay, unmatched SDR. That's yeah. Okay, so they've added a little in there, but the 101 and the 10 series. Let's see, what are they doing in this thing that makes it different? Okay, QRM, so they're using a lot of SDR type things, digital noise reduction and so on in the receiver. This does not sound like an introductory receiver or a transceiver. TFT is a twisted thing that is brighter and more colorful, and they've been around for long. The preset mode functions, most suitable for FT8. Yeah, they know where it's coming from. Acoustic enhanced speaker operation. I prefer phones myself. To use, let's see, specifications. Okay. Receive range up to 53.99. Okay, emission modes. Pre-order. Let's go to the Yaesu site and see what they have. Well, we want to know how much it's going to be. I don't see a price on here. 13.8 plus or minus 15, so it'll take battery output 5 to 100 watts. Let's see, 9.92 pounds is pretty light. Okay. Pre-order. And Ham Radio UK. Oh, they're just giving you a placeholder for it. September delivery. Okay. What they don't tell you is how much it's going to cost. Okay. This is Martin Lynch, which is a big UK retailer. Let's try DX Engineering. And the Yaesu. Let's just try Yaesu and see what happens. Yaesu 991A. Let's see, they've got just a variety of things here. Oops. But no prices. Well, let's put the model number in it. What was it again? FT710. FT710. Okay, we'll take the hyphen out. They've got the 10, but not the 710. Okay. They don't have it yet, so we don't have any prices on it. I'm just looking at this radio from the performance and features. It looks like a mid-range radio, but I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they have decided they're going to compete with the ICOM 7300. Of course, the problem with that, they've already got a competing radio, which is the FT991. By the way, you can add the screen on the thing. So, well, there we go. Okay, thank you for letting me know about that new radio. I will be looking for that and see what I can find. I don't know anybody at Yaesu, so I can't call them up and ask them. By the way, at Dayton, Yaesu did not have all its Japanese managers who had flown in from Japan who barely spoke English. They had American people who spoke English, and their booth was much more crowded as people were there. Although I did not see this radio at Dayton, I may have missed it. Okay, Scott, W9AVA. Let's see, what did I do? Okay. Let's see, can you recommend somewhere I can purchase enclosures for homebrew projects? Well, check your hobby shop, check DX Engineering. They may have a bunch of things. It used to be you could buy a chassis in every size. A metal box, an aluminum metal box. Now those are generally sold with the kit or something. It's an extra price thing. I know that the Indian radio, can't remember the name of it now. I'm looking at it right there. Anyway, it did not come with an enclosure, and it caused a lot of people a lot of grief with that. So try DX Engineering. Try your local hobby shop. There are a lot of makers who build little doodads and want them to put them in cases. A lot of them will 3D print the case. Okay. And so try a hobby shop, something like that. I think that will help you find something. Breaking Pint Media. John Kruk posted a video about 2 hours ago explaining all that's known. It's on the official Yaesu USA page. Okay, great. Berthold Edmund, hello Dave, greetings from Pohnpei, Micronesia. Hello, it's a long distance away. Keep the information videos coming. People like me depend on such tutorials. Well, welcome to the channel. I'm glad you're here. By the way, I should point out that the, not Tesla, the Tesla's sister project, the satellite network, and now I can't believe it, I just paid for it, Starlink, I think it's called, Starlink. The antenna's on its way. My area has now been included, so now we can have good live streams without the thing breaking down. Now, I made a promise to the local ISP they could use my roof as a relay point, and probably 30-35 people around here are pointed at my roof. And I will continue to honor that promise to him. He may continue to use my roof, because it's like the only point around here that he can use. So he can continue to use it. And there's a lot of people down in the canyon here that get internet by bouncing from one to another to another to another in a big long daisy chain that ends up on my roof and then shoots 15 miles up over to Water Dog Mountain, and then from there back down into Montrose. So it's a very rural internet setup, and it works. You're looking at it through it right now. Okay. Harry Rundle, I'm 75 and a half, more active now than in my late 60s, thanks to ham radio. If I would get my butt onto the treadmill, which is right there, I could do a lot better than I'm doing now. My diabetes appears to be under control. I've got some kidney issues that, again, appear to be under control. So it would appear that I'm under control. So there we go. Now, David Sheeks says, passed my general from watching your videos. Thanks. Congratulations. Welcome. Welcome to, and he's now going for extra. Get your radio, get on the air. I've got a reference station. Go to dcasler.com/reference. And you'll find in there a list of all the parts you need for an HF station. If you buy that list, you'll be in good shape. Now, it's a reference. It's just a reference. So if you want to like substitute a different antenna or substitute a different radio or something like that, you can do that. Of course, it's just a reference design. But a lot of people find it useful. I used to have people ask me, what HF rig should I buy? And my answer was, well, that's a personal choice. Finally, I just decided, tell them the Icom 7300. Go buy that. And a lot of people have done that. I think many of my channel viewers have bought the 7300s. Now I'll have to look at this new Yaesu 710 and see if it, what price range it's in and what kind of customer they're heading for. Because like the Icom 7610, it sounds just like a model number, but it's actually designed specifically for contesters and DXers. And I used one for a while, and it was a fabulous radio, but not a beginner's radio. This is like somebody who wants to learn to fly, and so they buy a 747. Well, it is possible to fly a 747. They fly every day. But it's not the airplane you want to learn in. You get a little Cessna or something and learn in that and move your way up. Okay, and David is now going for his extra. Good. Fres Bisnet said, thanks, Dave. JP, Tucson, Arizona. John Sullivan, Ray Baked. Hi, John, in attic, probably overheated up there and tore up the capacitors. Probably needs to be recapped at least, electrolytics and old style, bumblebees, waxies, etc. Very good. And OJ Jenkins says, Dave, after you get your extra, become a VE. Yes. Scott Anderson, Dave, what is something that you would have changed about you becoming a ham? From Scott W7SCD. I didn't have an Elmer after I left BYU, and I had graduated, and my Elmers were fellow novices. There was one kid my age who was a general, but mostly we just had a good time together. I would have worked harder at finding an Elmer. And that's why I do these videos. I didn't have anything like this. So I'm trying to make up for the fact that I really didn't have somebody who could have helped me. Well, let's see, it's pushing 8 o'clock. We better have the drawing. Okay. Now, what are we drawing for? We're drawing for this. This is the MFJ AC line RFI filter. Now, I won this in a drawing at Quartz Fest, but I don't have a use for it, okay? So I want to pass it on to an Augie. So this thing actually will handle up to 1800 watts. It's got a big hairy cord here. So that's about the max that you'd put on a 15 amp circuit. And you run everything through here, Note that it's got a ground here. This ground is separated from this ground by an inductor so that it will help reduce any noise that comes in on the ground line. Okay, but while still providing the proper protective coverage. So what we have here are maybe 100 entries. Okay, now I have shuffled these all around, so I'm just going to stick my finger into the middle and pull out a card. This is WD9 Delta Delta. WD9 Delta Delta. Okay, Russ Blahetka in Indiana. And he's got his name, he's got his address, call sign, and phone number, and it specifically says the June giveaway. Okay? So, Russ Blahetka, congratulations. You're getting this in the mail as soon as I find a box for it. Now, I already have 1, 2 entries for the July drawing. Remember that the July drawing is the KE0OG multimeter. Okay, which is very colorful and fancy and very nice. Okay, so congratulations again to Russ. And if you're listening out there, say hi. Okay, let's see. Past my general, let's see. John Sullivan, yes. Dave, was something that I would have gotten an Elmer 70. You look like you're much more mature than that. Well, thanks for it. I am 70, almost 71, and believe me, I feel it. I feel it. So, but I still can learn to fly an airplane, and that's what I'm doing. John Ward, hi Dave, I missed a Saturday afternoon chat we used to have. You helped me when I was doing my laundry, laughing out loud. Okay, I'm trying to wonder where that was. Interesting. Mike Oswald, as to radios of the 70s and early 80s, many still had capacitors of different strengths, and these do fail. Not hard to replace, but an area to look at. Radios such as Atlas, Swan, etc. Yes. If you have a radio that has tube finals and a tube driver, you have to treat those as tube radios and do all the usual restoration. They still work. I've got right up here a Yaesu FT101 Bravo, which is one of the first transceivers that Yaesu brought to the American market. They'd made transceivers before that, but this is the first ones that they brought to the American market, and they redefined the industry. But it still has tubes in it because the transistors of the time couldn't handle the 100-watt output. Now they do, of course, very easily. Neil Marsh, greetings from W7NRM in Mount St. Helens country. David Sheeks, hoping the new model will allow me to snag a DX 1200 cheap. I've looked at the DX, well, I've heard about them. I bought the FTDX 3000, which is right up there. That was my radio before I decided to build out the reference station. You know, I put out the stuff on the reference station, and I figured that ought to be my station. So that is my station. And I've still got that one up there. It's a very nice radio. Okay, one of the most sensitive, the best receiver I've ever used. Okay, hi Dave, looking for the best multiband HOA-friendly antenna. Suggestions, 80 through 10 meters. Well, my antennas, 80 through 10 end-fed antenna, is made of gray wire, and it's gray covered wire. And it's hard to see. It's very hard to see. Something like that could go up in escape detection. If you put up a modern vertical, it becomes kind of apparent. There are some modern verticals that are pretty short, but then they're compromised. Of course, you can always look at like the cobweb antennas, which look more like clotheslines than they do antennas. Mag loops are not out of the question, or what Zach Lau of the ARRL says should be called small HF loops. People have gotten to call them mag loops, and so do I, but they do work pretty well. Okay, let's see. But yeah, there are a variety. Also, you can use so-called ham sticks. If you look at MFJ, they make a number of mounts for ham sticks, either vertical or horizontal. And they can be quite small and yet still quite effective. So you might look at a number of those. They have a balcony antenna, which uses, well, it doesn't quite use a ham stick. But it's amazing what you can do with those things. So, and I've put up a bunch of videos about these things. Okay, Robert Cox, hello Dave and all. KD4LOK in DeLand, Florida, upper 90s today, but very nice rain this evening. Good. I can remember when it rains in Florida, the first thing it does immediately afterward is get humid. I noticed that when I was a Mormon missionary in the Philippines too. I dreaded morning rain over there because it would wet the ground, the humidity would go up to 100%, and then we'd have hot afternoon sun. The afternoon rain wasn't bad because it cooled things off and it stayed cool into the evening. Cool being a relative term here. Okay, we can all go home now. We got him to say wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Hush Money says, hi Dave and OG fans. Can anyone give me some advice on how to study for the general exam? Yes, I can. First, if you're tech, I strongly urge you to join the ARRL. It'll cost you about $50 for a year, which is about what a lot of things cost these days. You can spend that much at dinner with your wife easily. So then go to my website where it says KE0OG.net/general. And there's a video there you can watch that tells you you have to be logged into the ARRL to do this, or the learn.arrl site, or you can go directly to that. And but the thing is that the videos there match up exactly with the chapters in the ARRL study guide. Okay, so as you read a chapter, you watch, actually I recommend you watch the video, then read the chapter, then study the questions, then watch the next video, and they're section by section by section. Some sections I've split in half, in fact. There was so much material there. And I think that will put you in very good stead. I think there's a number of people here who can add their testimonial to those videos. They seem to work very well. Okay, so that's what I would recommend for you. Jedi of the Republic, hey Dave, happy Thursday. Yes, it is. William Peachman, yes. Nano VNA also doubles as an RF signal generator. Yes, they do many, many, many things. Like I said, they replace equipment that used to cost tens of thousands of dollars and fill up workbenches. All now done with this cute little thing, and they do work. So if you're really studying RF and you want to understand how RF networks resistors, capacitors behave, that's what vector network analyzers are for. Dave, can you confirm businesses can use MERS? Yes. I want to put my local airport personnel, mom and pop shop, community air park on MERS, and can old business radios be legally converted over? Not that I know of. Now, MERS works for businesses. Of course, if you're on an air park, you probably got an aviation frequency too. And if you've got a weather station, you've got AWAS or whatever. But yes, you can use it for business and no license is required. You could get a license and go with GMRS, but then you need to get some sort of umbrella license that covers everybody. MERS only has 5 channels. And it is sometimes used by like Walmart personnel or for the drive-through at McDonald's and so on. So get a MERS radio or two and listen to them. I reviewed some recently. And yes, you can use that sort of thing like that for MERS. Can old business radios be legally converted over? Technically not. I won't say anything more than that, but you should buy MERS radios. They're cheap. They're dirt cheap. I just did a video on some MERS radios that are quite inexpensive, available from some Chinese manufacturer, but they're cheap. You can get them on Amazon. In fact, you can buy like 25 at a time, you know. So, but be aware, there's only 5 frequencies. And some of them might be busy. It's just something to be aware of. And Neil Marsh gives the same answer, a yes and a no. Sinister Pisces says, it's been a while since you made your video on the Whisper Auto Beacon. Are you still using it? It's in the drawer right now. I recall you being very impressed with the results. Oh, you bet. And I can set up the 7300 to be a low power beacon, and you get very impressive results with it. It's amazing what can be done using exotic modulation techniques and exotic demodulation techniques with radio. It's just truly amazing. Okay, Nano VNA puts out a terrible signal in square wave, which is how it gets above 300 megahertz, uses the harmonics. True. OJ says, Sam's Club uses MERS and Walmart too. Yes, they do. So beware. But again, the signal doesn't travel huge distances. Tim Backus says, my antenna requires a 4-to-1 balun. I have a choice of a current balun or a voltage balun. What is the difference? In short summary, if you've got a balun in a line, the current balun makes sure that the current going that way and the current going that way are equal. So if you have a short section and a long section, it's kind of nice. A voltage balun makes sure that the voltage here and the voltage here are the same, usually opposite each other, opposite polarity, but they're the same. So it's going to force them to be the same. That type of balun is probably best used at the center of an antenna. Okay, so there's more to it than that. I did a video on baluns not that long ago, so do a search on that. Bill Bentley, Brother Dave, greetings from, oh, where did it go? You know, we're almost out of time, and I'm not going to get through all of these questions. Okay, no, this is not off topic, Jeff. Not at all. It says, sorry, off topic, I'm legally blind and also handicapped and have been wanting to get my tech license for the past 3 years. I can't get out. Go to an organization called HandiHams, HandiHams.org. Have a friend help you. Go to their website if you can't see it. That organization is specifically set up for people like you. Okay? Now, like this 7300 here, this HF radio, will, if you push the right buttons, it will read things to you. There's a voice that will tell you the frequency, that tell you all of these other things like that. So you know where you are. You know, you can kind of get it. It's a little blurry, but then you can just tune it right in with that voice. So there are people there that can help you. Okay, let's see. Sam's Club is antenna 4-to-1 Ballon. Greetings from Melinda. Metro of two young sons are interested in learning the Morse code. Do you have any thoughts on how to best teach the code to kids? Yes. Do it yourself. This is a great father-son type of deal. Okay. The other thing is have the kids teach each other. Get a code practice oscillator so one of them can send and the other one can receive. Okay. Now there is a piece of software called, and I've got it right here, I just saw it the other day, G4FON. Yeah, G4FON Morse trainer that I still consider the best Morse code trainer I've ever seen. So you can use that to kind of help. But if you got two kids in there working with each other, what a wonderful opportunity for a family activity that is. And that'll get them on the air, too. You can do with that. Get them their texts. And then they can use Morse code on HF. W2AEW, yes, he has. W2AEW is not a beginner's channel. It's at an extra level. Okay, a lot of his stuff is at an extra. I try to come in at a beginning general level. He has stuff at a higher level and does some fabulous stuff. Some things I didn't understand, I went to his channel and figured it out. Can you go over the 49 megahertz radio system? What can you do with it? I don't know what system that is. If you can give me a part number in the FCC rules, I can go look at that. I'm not familiar with that. Sorry. Smoberdina was able to complete 13 colonies. Very good. Bob Bacheo. Question, hard stop, 675 for first decent AM radio. What did I pick? An IC718 or an FT891 as a starter radio? There's probably more people using the FT891, but don't get QRP. Get a full 100-watt radio. The IC718 is a 100-watt radio. I don't know about the 891. It might be. Okay, Jeff Fields off top. Oh, we talked with Jeff. Joseph Rogers. Joke going around at 6 meters. If you worked all the neighbors, yeah. FCC approved, and they provide that information recently. HRO is doing a 35 first right of refusal. Okay, yeah, they're gonna pump it up. $1,300 would make it competitive, directly competitive, with the ICOM 7300. Okay, described as being what the 1200 was, but okay, yeah, it's just below the FTDX 10. Okay, screen and speakers are extras, yes, of course. Claudio BO-MR300 antenna analyzer with antenna analyzer software is really nice and useful. We just recently gave away a German antenna analyzer that, although it's fabulous, I never used it. So I either used the Ukrainian one from Rig Expert, or I used the MFJ. Aluminum plastic boxes, yeah, okay. Can you talk about the Smith circle, the Smith charts? That's actually an engineering level of doing things. If you go to W2AEW's channel, he does some very nice videos on that. That is actually at an engineering level. It's above extra in terms of technology. They are quite fascinating. So go over there and learn about that. Does Radio Stack? There still are a couple Radio Shacks, but not much going on there. I think the idea of going on Amazon is better. Have I done the giveaway? Yes, I have. And where did I put that card? It was won by Russ Blahetka in Cherryville, Indiana, USA. Okay, he gets this one, and the KE0OG meter, which went where? Has disappeared on me. The KE0OG meter is the July offering. Okay, Project Enclosures at All Electronics, thank you. Radio Shack is web only. Okay, Optical Man Jeff has added $15 to the channel revenue. Says, thanks, Dave. You've been a very important person in a lot of hams' lives. And I'm sorry, we have also, what is the interesting, the history of the term ham is the term goes back 120 years. Ham was a derogatory term for bad actor. It still is. And so it made its way into radio because you had commercial radio operators and those blasted blankety blank hams. And the term stuck. And we still use it today proudly, just as the term Yankee was a derogatory British term for American patriots back during the Revolutionary War. And we're Yankees and always will be. So, okay, we are out of time. Sadly, we can't go through these. My windows do not open, no access to roof. Any options for an HF antenna? Yes, get the school custodian to drill a hole in the wall. So I have a feeling it's probably block or concrete. And, or have them run a pipe up to the roof that goes up and then twists down like that so you won't get moisture in it. Run the coax through that. We are out of time. We're over time. Sorry I can't get to all the comments this time. It's just wonderful to hear from all of you. I tried to answer a few of the questions that we had tonight, and I'm just grateful for all of you and all you do to support me in this endeavor. And I hope I am providing you some value. Thank you so much for the chat revenue, and we will see you this coming Thursday evening for a continuation on our next live stream. So until we next meet, 73.